video, a Jamaican living in Germany. Now, living abroad is an exciting experience, lots of new things and many different things to adapt to. But there's another side to it, and I want to talk about my experience today dealing with sadness and loneliness while living in Germany. When you take on a new adventure, there's lots of excitement and you're just happy and you're just bubbling and you just can't wait for things to unfold. And that's exactly what my experience was when I was moving to Germany. But when I got to Germany, reality hit me, like really hit me, where I recognized that, hey, I'm in Germany now, and I was thousands of miles away from the place that I called home for like 24 years of my life. I was away from the food, the people, the culture, the music, the weather, everything that I was familiar with was no more around me. When I moved to Germany, a friend of mine was actually helping me to get settled. So he actually came to the city where my university was and was helping me getting around to different places, doing all the things that I needed to do. And I recognized that I was becoming annoyed. It wasn't because of him, but it was more or less because of all the things that were going through my head, where I was like, okay, first of all, this breakup, and then also the big step that I just took, this new reality, and everything was just like really up to my neck. And then somehow I wasn't able to process all of that, and instead of talking about it like a good adult, it just came out in little tantrums and just snapping and all that stuff. So even from the onset, there were actually signs of this sadness. After he left, then I was like really on my own. I was really alone because I had a single apartment, so I wasn't sharing the apartment with anyone. And I lived at that place for almost 1 year, and I don't think I saw any of my neighbors even once. What also made it even worse with this apartment was that the internet connection there was really poor. So even just trying to communicate and trying to stay in contact with my family members and friends back home while I was in my apartment was frustrating. One of the hardest things about moving away is losing your friends. The friends that you have usually is because of the experiences that you share or the context that you share and so on. When you're miles away from them or even time differences away from them, then that changes a lot of things. Contact slowly started decreasing, where it was a situation where out of sight, out of mind, we didn't have these shared realities anymore, so it's like we could not relate to each other. When I would tell them, hey, I'm having problems adjusting and there's like, I'm feeling lonely and whatever stuff, I made friends and all those different things, the response that I got from some people were like, hey, you're living in Germany, you shouldn't be having problems. I mean, everything is kind of perfect there, which to this day, I don't understand why people think that way. Like, just because you live in a first world country, that means that, hey, everything is perfect and you don't have any problems and so on. There were even situations where friends were kind of hinting at, hey, I mean, if it's so hard for you, just come back home. I found that response really surprising because, of course, when you take on a big challenge in life, there are going to be a lot of things that you have to overcome. And that was exactly what was happening. In my mind, I was thinking like, these would be good friends to say, okay, Oshando, yep, right now it's tough, right now it's frustrating, but guess what? You're going to make it through. Making new friends was another challenge. Moving to Germany, it's a different culture. It's a different language, and so many things are different. Just the fact that you have so many different words in German to describe the different types of relationships in comparison to English, where we kind of just always just go with friends, like to describe just about everyone. You kind of know like there is like a process that you have to go through. And so even just that and getting through this process and understanding the differences in the culture and having to accept them and to learn how to deal with them. Now, that was challenging. That was really challenging. Making friends in Germany, it's especially like making friends with Germans more or less. It's like you have this thing that you have to kind of jump over at the beginning. I recognize that friendships in Germany, they take time. In comparison to other countries where you just meet someone and before you know it, you say they are your friends. That process was really challenging to get accustomed to, because coming from Jamaica, where it's like, you know, I don't know, it was somehow easier. What I noticed at the university was like people would just group together based on their cultures, And then of course, being the only person from Jamaica, who would I actually group with? Of course, I had like 1 or 2 friends I could count on at the university, but Most of the times I would actually just be alone. For example, alone in the university, eating lunch, or maybe in the library or so on. In the university was challenging, but thankfully the church that I was going to, it wasn't that much of a challenge, because there I was able to make some really good friends. People that live in another country, they have this opportunity to appreciate friendships even more. You know, when you're in your own country and you have your friends, you know, they're your friends, you can count on them and so on. But living there, you also have your family. And when you move somewhere else and your family is thousands of miles away, then somehow the friends that you have, they somehow become your family. These are people that you can call on. These are people that you can depend on. These are people that you can share everything with. Living in Germany has definitely helped me to appreciate friendships even more and to value friendships even more. There's those situations where friends can really become your family. I'm thankful for the friends that I've made in Germany, because they've definitely made the experience much better. Because if it wasn't for them, yeah, this story would be a very different one. Over time, I recognized that all that I was experiencing was having an impact on me. I recognized, for example, that my personality changed. I was definitely more extroverted and more outgoing when I was back in Jamaica. And then moving to Germany, things changed, because first of all, the language. There were points where I was even ashamed, or not ashamed, but more or less afraid to speak in English. Of course, people understand English, but I don't know, there was this thing in my mind, like, okay, you're in Germany, you should be speaking German. And then like, I didn't even want to like speak English. Like if I was ordering something, or sometimes even if I'm just walking on the street and talking on the phone. I don't know why that was happening in my head, but that was just the case. When I started learning German, things didn't necessarily improve, because then I was learning the language, but then this consciousness in my mind that, okay, your German isn't perfect, also made me didn't want to speak. All of this led to periods of depression and just right out sadness, where I was looking at life in Germany, all the different challenges that I was having. Because come on, you're in a different country. There are like a million things that you need to adapt to. There are like a million things that you need to learn. And then all of this was just a burden sometimes. I became shy. I became this little hermit crab, more or less. And I would just kind of come out just for the necessary stuff. There was definitely a lot of emotional and mental strain that was going on there. And when you wake up every day with these type of thoughts, and then you're thinking about the life in Germany, and then you're also thinking about life back home, and you're concerned about your family, you're concerned about your friends, and then it's like you have to struggle with two realities, where my reality here, the reality there. In those situations, what happened was I just wanted to retreat. I just wanted, okay, just forget about it. In the back of my head was also this pressure that I have to make it. I have to make the best of this opportunity. You know, you need to do your best, because if you don't do your best, then you're going to go back home as a failure. And yeah, this was playing out in my head, and it wasn't because someone was saying it to me, but it's because of the person I am, where I'm always setting big goals. Thankfully, things got better, and I was able to find ways to deal with the depression. I was able to find ways to deal with the sadness and to deal with the loneliness, and to come to the point to recognize that just because I'm alone doesn't necessarily mean that I'm lonely. One thing is definitely to be positive, to think positive. I know it sounds pretty normal, but in situations like these, it's important to recognize that things are going to get better. Patience is such an important thing when you take on steps like these, because sometimes you want things to move faster than they should, but sometimes you just have to be patient, and you just have to wait for things to unfold in its time. Another thing that I did at university was I found different things that I could participate in, for example, different clubs and different initiatives, so that I could actually more or less distract my mind. And it also gave me an opportunity to meet different people. And volunteering, it's the best way to just kind of just switch the focus from all your problems and all your sadness and stuff. I had to learn to not force things, because I was sad, because I was lonely, and a number of times I was trying to force friendships, trying to force people like to somehow be my friends and stuff. If you force friendships and if you force different situations, then in the end it will just actually lead to heartache, and then that's just going to contribute to more sadness. So sometimes it's just better to wait. That's more or less my experience and how I actually dealt with it. But I'd love to hear from you guys. I mean, have you guys experienced this as well, living somewhere else and more or less starting over, making new friends and dealing with a different culture and so on? I'd love to hear, did you guys also have some of these experiences, or did you have even crazy experiences? Let me know in the comments. And thank you guys so much for watching the video, and see you in the next Jamaican video.